couple of years ago, I booked an Airbnb for a weekend trip with two of my friends. We wanted somewhere quiet, away from the city. So we picked this small house in a rural area about an hour's drive from anywhere busy. The listing looked perfect. Modern interior, big backyard, and surrounded by trees. It even had hundreds of positive reviews, so we didn't think twice about it. We arrived just before sunset. The house looked exactly like the pictures. A single-story place with wooden panels, a gravel driveway, and a porch facing the road. There weren't any other houses nearby, just long stretches of trees on both sides. At first, it felt peaceful, but also a little too quiet. We got inside using the keypad lock the host had given us. The interior was clean, minimal, and well-maintained. Living room, kitchen, 2 bedrooms, and a hallway leading to a bathroom. Everything seemed normal. But right away, something felt slightly off. At the end of the hallway, there was a door that wasn't shown in the listing photos. It was a heavy wooden door with a metal handle and a padlock on it. Not a normal indoor lock, an actual padlock. One of my friends joked that it probably led to a storage room or something the host didn't want guests accessing. That made sense, so we didn't think much of it at first. We spent the evening normally, ordered food, watched movies, and just relaxed. Around midnight, we turned off most of the lights and got ready to sleep. That's when we heard the first noise, a faint thump. It came from somewhere down the hallway. At first, we all ignored it, thinking it was just the house settling or maybe something outside. But a few minutes later, it happened again. Thump. This time, it was louder. We all looked at each other. "Did that come from the basement?" one of my friends asked. That's when we realized something. There was no basement mentioned in the listing, and we hadn't seen any stairs. The only place it could be coming from was behind that locked door. We walked down the hallway together and stood in front of it. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then we heard it again. A slow, dragging sound, like something moving across the floor, right on the other side of the door. None of us said anything. We just stood there listening. Then one of my friends knocked on the door as a joke. The sound stopped immediately. Complete silence. That was enough to make us step back. We decided not to mess with it and went back to the living room, trying to laugh it off. But the mood had completely changed. About 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was a message from the Airbnb host. I hadn't messaged them first. The message said, "Please do not open the basement door." I stared at the screen for a few seconds. We hadn't told anyone about the noise. We hadn't even touched the lock. So how did they know we were near that door? I replied, asking what they meant. No response. We stayed up for another hour, but nothing else happened. Eventually, we went to bed. Sometime in the middle of the night, I woke up. I didn't know why at first. Then I heard it. A faint metallic sound, like something tapping against metal. Slow, steady tapping. I sat up and listened. It was coming from the hallway again, from the direction of the locked door. I walked down toward it, trying not to wake my friends. The hallway was dark, but I could still see the door at the end. And something immediately felt wrong. The padlock was gone. It was just hanging open. The door itself was slightly ajar, maybe an inch. I stood there, frozen, staring at it. Then I heard a whisper, very quiet, from inside. I couldn't make out the words, just the sound of someone speaking softly, right behind the door. I slowly stepped back, then turned around and went straight back to the room. I locked the bedroom door and didn't sleep again that night. The next morning, we checked out early. Before leaving, I looked at the hallway one last time. The door was closed again, and the padlock was back in place. A few months ago, I booked an Airbnb for a short solo trip. I had a few days off work and just wanted to get out of the city, clear my head, and stay somewhere quiet. I found this small apartment in a suburban area. Nothing fancy, but it looked clean, modern, and the reviews were really good. The host seemed friendly too. Quick replies, clear instructions, everything felt normal. Check-in was simple. The key was in a lockbox outside the building, and I let myself in around 6 p.m. The apartment was on the second floor, at the end of a narrow hallway. As soon as I walked in, I noticed how quiet the place was. Not just peaceful quiet, but completely silent. No traffic sounds, no neighbors, nothing. The apartment itself was small but well kept. A living room with a couch and TV, a small kitchen, one bedroom, and a bathroom. Everything looked exactly like the photos. I dropped my bag, turned on the lights, and did a quick check around the place, just a habit I have when staying somewhere new. Everything seemed fine. Except for one thing. In the bedroom, there was a second pillow on the bed that looked used. Not messy, just slightly indented, like someone had just been lying there. I figured it was just from cleaning or maybe the last guest, so I didn't think much about it. That night, I ordered food and watched TV for a while before going to sleep. Around 2 a.m., I woke up suddenly. At first, I thought I had just had a bad dream. Then, I heard it. A soft creaking sound, like a floorboard shifting, from outside the bedroom. I stayed still, listening. Another creak, slow, careful, like someone trying not to make noise. My heart started beating faster. I grabbed my phone and checked the time, 2:07 a.m. I told myself it was probably just the building settling or maybe someone walking in the hallway outside. But then I heard it again, this time closer, right outside the bedroom door. I sat up in bed, staring at the door. The handle didn't move. No knocking, just silence. After a minute, I got up and slowly walked toward the door. I opened it quickly. The living room was empty. All the lights were still on from earlier, and everything looked exactly the same. No signs of anyone being there. I checked the front door, still locked. The chain was still in place. I went back to bed, but I didn't sleep much after that. The next morning, I messaged the host just to be safe. I asked if anyone else had access to the apartment. They replied pretty quickly. No, you are the only guest. No one else has access during your stay. That should have made me feel better, but it didn't. That night, I decided to stay up a bit later just in case I heard the same thing again. Around 2:50 a.m., I turned off the TV and sat quietly in the living room with the lights dimmed. At exactly 2:07 a.m., I heard it again. The same creak. This time, I didn't move. I just listened. Another step, then another. Slow footsteps, moving from the bedroom into the living room. My chest tightened. I was sitting in the living room, facing the hallway. There was no one there, but I could hear the footsteps getting closer. Then they stopped, right in front of me. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel it, like someone was standing right there, watching me. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe properly. After what felt like forever, the footsteps started again, moving away, back toward the bedroom. I waited a few minutes before turning on all the lights. Then I checked the bedroom. Nothing. Everything looked normal. Except for one thing. The second pillow. The one that looked used before. Now it had a deeper indentation, like someone had just gotten up from it. I packed my things the next morning and left early. Before leaving, I checked the guest log on the Airbnb app, just out of curiosity. It showed my name, and below it, another name. Same dates, same apartment. About a year ago, I booked an Airbnb for a short weekend project. I had some freelance work to finish and needed a quiet place where I wouldn't get distracted. I didn't want anything fancy, just somewhere isolated with decent Wi-Fi. I ended up choosing the small cabin listed just outside a forest area. The photos looked amazing. Big windows, wooden interior, cozy lighting, the kind of place that feels peaceful the moment you see it. The reviews were good too. Nothing suspicious, just people saying it was quiet, clean, and perfect for a short stay. I arrived late in the evening, just after sunset. The drive there already felt a bit off. The road leading to the cabin got narrower the deeper I went, and eventually it turned into a dirt path surrounded by trees on both sides. By the time I reached the place, it was completely dark outside. The cabin itself looked exactly like the photos. Warm lights glowing through the windows, wooden porch, everything calm and still. Check-in was self-service. The key was hidden in a small lockbox near the door. I unlocked it, went inside, and locked the door behind me. Right away, I noticed how quiet it was. Not just no people quiet, but no sound at all. No wind, no insects, nothing. Just silence. I walked around the cabin to get familiar with the place. Small kitchen, living area, one bedroom, and a bathroom. Everything looked neat and perfectly arranged. Then, I noticed something strange. In the corner of the living room, mounted high on the wooden beam, there was a small black device. It looked like a smoke detector or some kind of sensor. But the more I looked at it, the more it looked like a lens. I checked the Airbnb listing again on my phone. There was no mention of any indoor cameras. No warnings, no disclosures. That made me uncomfortable. I messaged the host and asked about it. No reply. I tried to ignore it and focus on my work. I opened my laptop, put on some music, and started working at the small table near the window. Every now and then, I'd glance up at that device. It always felt like it was pointed directly at me. Around midnight, I finally decided to go to sleep. I turned off most of the lights, leaving just a small lamp on in the bedroom. As I walked past the living room, I looked up at the device again. There was a tiny red light on it, barely visible, but it was on. I stood there for a moment, staring at it. I didn't remember seeing that light earlier. Trying not to overthink it, I went into the bedroom and closed the door. Sometime later that night, I woke up. I didn't know why at first. Then, I heard it. A soft clicking sound, like something turning on. It was coming from the living room. I stayed still, listening. Click. Then a faint buzzing sound. I slowly got out of bed and walked toward the bedroom door. As I opened it slightly, I could see into the living room. The red light on the device was brighter now, and it wasn't the only one. There was another light, lower, near the shelf across the room. I hadn't noticed anything there before. Now I could clearly see it. Another small device, another lens. My heart started racing. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. As I stepped into the living room, I scanned the area. That's when I saw it. Not one, not two, but multiple small cameras placed around the cabin. On the shelf, near the window, above the door frame, all pointed inward, all facing the main living area. I immediately grabbed my bag and headed for the door. But just as I reached it, my phone buzzed. It was a message from the host. Please don't touch the equipment. I froze. I hadn't told them anything yet. I hadn't sent another message. I slowly turned back toward the room. The red lights were still on, watching. I unlocked the door and stepped outside as quickly as I could. As I walked toward my car, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still being watched, like the cameras weren't the only thing observing me. I didn't stop until I reached the main road. Later that night, I reported the listing to Airbnb. They removed it within a day. No explanation, no follow-up, just gone. But what still bothers me is something I noticed before I left. When I checked the listing one last time, the photos of the cabin looked slightly different. Different angles, different lighting,